What's up, everybody? Piscean X here, all alone on my 21st birthday. Yes, you heard that right. I am all alone. And we are going to be cooking in this video. I'm about 4 drinks in. So, you guys are going to get the chill cooking Taurus Ascendant. I'll be right back. Alright, so we have an onion here, but not just that. We have a potato, some chicken, and what we're going to do is put it in the oven. So, without further ado, let's cut up this onion. I love how onions have so many layers, just like life. And I use this app called Meet Me, and I sometimes go live on there. I had a white man be like, "Oh, you're a black woman. Ooga booga. You're an ape or a monkey." Some people would laugh at that the way that I laugh at calling men faggots sometimes, or calling white people nothing good, Nazi lovers. I mean, some white men are like that, though. Kind of sucks that some people don't understand that it's not us versus each other. It's us and the government. But y'all are not ready. But yeah, today is my 21st birthday. Kind of just been chilling out. I mean, vibing out in my apartment. It was cool to go to the dispensary a little bit earlier and buy some weed. So we're gonna put some of it. Ooh, that could have been a finger. We're gonna just try and not. Guys, I'm sorry if you're getting that in the comments. Like, girl, you do not know how to cut a goddamn onion. Or put it on it. We're getting there, slowly and surely. Luckily, I have my fans to, watch me while it's my birthday, and I don't have any friends here to cook for, so I'm just gonna eat some stuff myself and salad jones. Honestly, if I can never do anything with astrology, it'll have to be cooking for me because Taurus Ascendant. It's just gonna have to be the way it would be today. I did cooking on the side. Now we are going to cut our onion up. Before you ask, yes, we are indeed going to wash this. Our Amazon Basics liquid soap. Alrighty. So we're ready to shove this. Trying to get more delicate pieces of it. I'm not very happy that YouTube has been copywriting me, and it just sucks, in my opinion. These may look like fairly big slices, but we're going to actually continue to cut them. I'm going to kind of do like little bites of potatoes. I love how like alcohol makes me just feel ready to cook. It's like, wow, it's crazy. Alright, this is our bowl of potatoes and onions. Onions at the bottom, potatoes at the top, obviously. So, now you may be asking, well, Piscean, what are you to do next? Well, glad you asked. Because we are going to get started on our chicken, which is actually going to go in the oven. Currently, I need butter, so that's what I'm going to get very soon. But that's besides the point. So, it's just in most of my videos, I was saying you guys see me use butter a lot. So, we're using some smart chicken, wingettes and jummies. These do definitely need to be thawed, just a little bit before we get them going. So we'll get the hot water running right now. So water's already pretty much warming up here. These are ready to be seasoned. We do have some BBQ sauce, some Arizona Dreaming Penzi spices, Ozark style seasoning Penzis. So we're just gonna go ahead and season. I like a lot of seasoning on my wings, to be honest. So I like my stuff having flavor. Definitely want it to have flavor. What you know about that flavor, though? Especially this here, the Arizona Dreaming. Amazing. Of course, we got black pepper. Especially that one. A lot of seasoning. Ooh. We got it in the bag. So hard to get it just right. These are very small little chicken bites. So they'll probably be done in no time. Wish I had a camera overhead so you guys could see like exactly if I'm seasoning too much. You guys would probably say yeah if I'm sneezing. Alrighty, just gonna wash my hands. Then seasoning off. And we'll wash the pan out, of course. Alright, so now we're gonna put our chicken wings in the oven. I'd say 350. And we are also going to start to prepare our onions in the pan for when I get them. I really like to just use this oven first and then I do the stovetop, if not the other way around. So, yeah, that's some onions. Good old onions. This is my own little birthday dinner to myself for not offing myself. LOL. I'm joking. Or am I? But anyways, this is the onions and the potatoes. And we're just gonna put it on the stove top. Get that cooking. And we're starting it at 5 to heat it up. I'm also currently live on Meet Me, and this is what happens when we go live: is nobody talks. So you can see I have people in here not saying anything. This is strange for an app called Meet Me, in my opinion. But alas, we also have hot sauce. Personally, I prefer this sweet and tangy honey barbecue sauce. Alright. Anything else? Well, I've been working on some AI astrology content. More stuff coming soon. So I suggest you subscribe, like, comment, share my videos. Keep me in the algorithm. Of course, the algorithm has its own motives. We have the other light on, we have this light on, so you guys should be able to see everything going on. We're gonna put the rest of the bowl in the fridge. So it's currently 12:13 in the morning, already February 27th. Pretty much spent my 21st birthday alone, but I'm not gonna complain about it, guys. Honestly, it is what it is. Really quick, I would like to read scripture, or not even a scripture, but a little section of Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth, which I've discussed in previous videos. We're on chapter 3 now. We're talking about the core of ego. Shout out to Sun Cruiser Lemonade Vodka. Really cool. I just feel like I have to clean up all this stuff right now. Well, never leave your food on the stove while it's cooking, we know, but I just want to read a quick, it's just a page or two. The core of ego. Most people are so completely identified with the voice in the head, the incessant stream of involuntary and compulsive thinking, and the emotions that accompany it, that we may describe them as being possessed by their mind. As long as you are completely unaware of this, you take the thinker to be who you are. This is the egoic mind. We call it egoic because there is a sense of self, of I, ego, and every thought, every memory, every interpretation, opinion, viewpoint, reaction, emotion. This is unconsciousness, spiritually speaking. Your thinking, the content of your mind, is of course conditioned by the past, your upbringing, culture, family background, and so on. The central core of all your mind activity consists of certain repetitive and persistent thoughts, emotions, and reactive patterns that you identify with most strongly. This entity is the ego itself. In most cases, when you say I, it is the ego speaking, not you. As we have seen, it consists of thought and emotion, of a bundle of memories you identify with as me, and my story of habitual roles you play without knowing it, of collective identifications such as nationality, religion, race, social class, or political allegiance. It also contains personal identifications, not only with positions, but also with opinions, external appearance, long standing resentments, or concepts of yourself as better than or not as good as others, as a success or failure. The content of the ego varies from person to person, but in every ego, the same structure operates. In other words, egos only differ on the surface. Deep down, they are all the same. In what way are they the same? They live on identification and separation. When you live through the mind made self comprised of thought and emotion, that is the ego, the basis for your identity is precarious because thought and emotion are by their very nature ephemeral, fleeting, so every ego is continuously struggling for survival, trying to protect and enlarge itself. To uphold the I thought, it needs the opposite thought of the other. The conceptual I cannot survive without the conceptual other. The others are most other when I see them as my enemies. At one end of the scale of this unconscious egoic pattern lies the egoic compulsive habit of fault finding and complaining about others. Jesus referred to it when he said, "Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye?" At the other end of the scale, there's physical violence between individuals and warfare between nations. In the Bible, Jesus' question remains unanswered, but the answer is, of course, because when I criticize or condemn another, it makes me feel bigger, superior. Next, we would read about complaining and resentment. And really quick, we'll just go over, let's see. So this chapter, so we're on page 61 now, and this chapter ends at page 84. And then he goes into role playing the many faces of the ego. So now let's get back to cooking. As you can see, our oven is indeed on. We have our chicken in there cooking right now. It's not going to be done for a little bit, probably another like 20 minutes, really, to be honest with you. But this looks done. And a lot of the heat gets, blown to the stove top, so we got to be careful. We're trying to also cook our chicken at the same time. So, keeping that in mind, to help the chicken cook faster, we shut it off. The onions and the potatoes. So now this, and then we're going to give the chicken until the video is 12:19, probably until about 12:35, maybe 12:30. It really depends. It's only on 350 for 6 little pieces of wings. So, anyways, I wanted to zoom through this book kind of, but also like dissect it. So we have about, like 20 more pages, 23, 24, whatever. So complaining and resentment. Complaining is one of the ego's favorite strategies for strengthening itself. And that's why I'm here making this video, because I made this video and I've been up all day and I'm like, wow, it's my birthday. I don't have anybody really saying I want to come hang out with you, and complaining instead of being grateful for the fact that I have my own studio apartment to cook my own food, to not deal with my parents bothering me for making my own food or wanting to do my own thing, and I have my own living space. So I have to say thank you, universe, for everything I already have. I do not want what I have in God if it's not meant for me. So, like he says, every complaint is a little story the mind makes up that you completely believe in. Whether you complain aloud or only in thought makes no difference. Some egos that perhaps don't have much else to identify with easily survive on complaining alone. When you are in the grip of such an ego, complaining, especially about other people, is habitual and, of course, unconscious, which means you don't know what you're doing. Applying negative mental labels to people, either to their face or more commonly when you speak about them to others or even just think about them, is often part of this pattern. Name calling is the crudest form of such labeling and of the ego's need to be right and triumph over others. Jerk, bastard, bitch, all definitive pronouncements that you can't argue with. On the next level down on the scale of unconsciousness, you have shouting and screaming, and not much below that, physical violence. Um, Resentment is the emotion that goes with complaining and the mental labeling of people and adds even more energy to the ego. Resentment means to feel bitter, indignant, aggrieved, or offended. You resent other people's greed, their dishonesty, their lack of integrity, what they are doing, what they did in the past, what they said, what they failed to do, what they should or shouldn't have done. The ego loves it. Instead of overlooking unconsciousness in others, you make it into their identity. Who is doing that? The unconsciousness in you, the ego. Sometimes the fault that you perceive in another isn't even there. It is a total misinterpretation, a projection by a mind conditioned to see enemies and to make itself right or superior. At other times, the fault may be there, but by focusing on it sometimes to the exclusion of everything else, you amplify it, and what you react to in another, you strengthen in yourself. Non-reaction to the ego in others is one of the most effective ways not only of going beyond ego in yourself, but also of dissolving the collective human ego. But you can only be in a state of non-reaction if you can recognize someone's behavior as coming from the ego, as being an expression of the collective human dysfunction. When you realize it's not personal, there's no longer a compulsion to react as if it were. By not reacting to the ego, you will often be able to bring out the sanity in others, which is the unconditioned consciousness as opposed to the condition. At times, you may have to take practical steps to protect yourself from deeply unconscious people. This you can do without making them into enemies. Your greatest protection, however, is being conscious. Somebody becomes an enemy if you personalize the unconsciousness that is the ego. Non-reaction is not weakness, but strength. Another word for non-reaction is forgiveness. To forgive is to overlook, or rather to look through. You look through the ego to the sanity that is in every human being as his or her essence. The ego loves to complain and feel resentful, not only about other people, but also about situations. What you can do to a person, you can also do to a situation. Make it into an enemy. The implication is always, this should not be happening. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be doing this. I'm being treated unfairly. And the ego's greatest enemy of all is, of course, the present moment, which is to say, life itself. Complaining is not to be confused with informing someone of a mistake or deficiency so that it can be put right. And to refrain from complaining doesn't necessarily mean putting up with bad quality or behavior. There is no ego in telling the waiter that your soup is cold and needs to be heated up. If you stick to the facts, which are always neutral. How dare you serve me cold soup? That's complaining. There is a me here that loves to feel personally offended by the cold soup and is going to make the most of it. A me that enjoys making someone wrong. The complaining we are talking about is in the service of the ego, not of change. Sometimes it becomes obvious that the ego doesn't really want change so that it can go on complaining. See if you can catch, that is to say, notice the voice in the head, perhaps in the very moment it complains about something, and recognize it for what it is, the voice of the ego, no more than a conditioned mind pattern, a thought. Whenever you notice that voice, you will also realize that you are not the voice, but the one who is aware of it. In fact, you are the awareness that is aware of the voice. In the background, there is the awareness. In the foreground, there is the voice, the thinker. In this way, you are becoming free of the ego, free of the unobserved mind. The moment you become aware of the ego in you, it is strictly speaking no longer the ego, but just an old conditioned mind pattern. Ego implies unawareness. Awareness and ego cannot coexist. The old mind pattern or mental habitat may still survive and reoccur for a while because it has the momentum of thousands of years of collective human unconsciousness behind it. But every time it is recognized, it is weakened. So it's almost 12:30. Real quick, let's read reactivity and grievances. Whereas resentment is often the emotion that goes with complaining, it may also be accompanied by a stronger emotion such as anger or some other form of upset. In this way, it becomes more highly charged energetically. Complaining then turns into reactivity, another of the ego's ways of strengthening itself. There are many people who are always waiting for the next thing to react against, to feel annoyed or disturbed about, and it never takes long before they find it. This is an outrage, they say. How dare you? I resent this. They are addicted to upset and anger as others are to a drug. Through reacting against this or that, they assert and strengthen their feeling of self. A long-standing resentment is called a grievance. To carry a grievance is to be in a permanent state of against, and that is why grievances constitute a significant part of many people's ego. Collective grievances can survive for centuries in the psyche of a nation or a tribe and fuel a never-ending cycle of violence. A grievance is a strong negative emotion connected to an event in the sometimes distant past that is being kept alive by compulsive thinking. By retelling the story in the head or out loud of what someone did to me or what someone did to us, a grievance will also contaminate other areas of your life. For example, while you think about and feel your grievance, its negative emotional energy can distort your perception of an event that is happening in the present, or influence the way in which you speak or behave towards someone in the present. One strong grievance is enough to contaminate large areas of your life and keep you in the grip of the ego. That's my drink. It requires honesty to see whether you still harbor grievances, whether there is someone in your life you have not completely forgiven, an enemy. If you do, become aware of the grievance both on a level of thought as well as emotion. That is to say, be aware of the thoughts that keep it alive and feel the emotion that is the body's response to those thoughts. Don't try to let go of the grievance. Trying to let go to forgive does not work. Forgiveness happens naturally when you see that it has no purpose other than to strengthen a false sense of self, to keep the ego in place. The scene is freeing. Jesus' teaching to forgive your enemies is essentially about the undoing of one of the main egoic structures in the human mind. The past has no power to stop you from being present now. Only your grievance about the past can do that. And what is a grievance? The baggage of old thought and emotion. Now it's 12:28. So being right, making wrong, complaining as well as fault finding and reactivity strengthen the ego sense of boundary and separateness on which its survival depends. But they also strengthen the ego in another way by giving it a feeling of superiority on which it thrives. It may not be immediately apparent how complaining, say about a traffic jam, about politicians, about the greedy wealthy or the lazy unemployed, or your colleagues or ex-spouse, men or women, can give you a sense of superiority. Here's why. When you complain, by implication, you are right, and the person or situation you complain about or react against is wrong. There is nothing that strengthens the ego more than being right. Being right is identification with a mental position, a perspective, an opinion, a judgment, a story. For you to be right, of course, you need someone else to be wrong, and so the ego loves to make wrong in order to be right. In other words, you need to make others wrong in order to get a stronger sense of who you are. Not only a person, but also a situation can be made wrong through complaining and reactivity, which also implies that this should not be happening. Being right places you in a position of imagined moral superiority in relation to the person or situation that is being judged and found wanting. It is that sense of superiority the ego craves and through which it enhances itself. Next, he goes over in defense of an illusion. We're going to check the chicken. Facts undoubtedly exist. If you say light travels faster than sound and someone else says the opposite is the case, you are obviously right and he is wrong. The simple observation that lightning precedes thunder could confirm this. So not only are you right, but you know you are right. Is there any ego involved in this? Possibly, but not necessarily. If you are simply stating what you know to be true, the ego is not involved at all because there is no identification. We're going to get back into this real soon. So stay tuned. 34 minutes in, let's check our chicken. Now it's looking like it's starting to cook. It might need some more time though. I beg to differ, it probably needs like another 7 minutes. Yeah, it just turned 12:30, so I was thinking probably around 12:40 anyways. Alright. So, identification with what? With mind and a mental position. Such identification, however, can easily creep in If you find yourself saying, "Believe me, I know," or "Why do you never believe me?" then the ego has already crept in. It is hiding in the little word "me," a simple statement. Light is faster than sound. Although true is now in the service of illusion, of ego, it has become contaminated with a false sense of I. It has become personalized, turned into a mental position. The I feels diminished or offended because somebody doesn't believe what I said. Ego takes everything personally. Emotion arises, defensiveness, perhaps even aggression. Are you defending the truth? No, the truth in any case needs no defense. The lighter sound does not care about what you or anybody else thinks. You are defending yourself, or rather the illusion of yourself. The mind may substitute. It would be even more accurate to say that the illusion is defending itself. If even the simple and straightforward realm of facts can lend itself to egoic distortion and illusion, how much more so the less tangible realm of opinions, viewpoints, and judgments, all of them thought forms that can easily become infused, inflated, infused with a sense of I. Every ego confuses opinions and viewpoints with facts, furthermore, cannot tell the difference between an event and its reaction to that event. Every ego is a master of selective perception and distorted interpretation. Only through awareness, not through thinking, can you differentiate between fact and opinion. Only through awareness are you able to see there is a situation and here is the anger I feel about it, and then realize there are other ways of approaching the situation, other ways of seeing it and dealing with it. Only through awareness can you see the totality of the situation or person instead of adopting one limited perspective. Then he proceeds to go on about truth, whether it's relative or absolute. He says, beyond the realm of simple and verifiable facts, the certainty that I am right and you are wrong is a dangerous thing in personal relationships as well as in interactions between nations, tribes, religions, and so on. But if the belief I am right, you are wrong is one of the ways in which the ego strengthens itself, if making yourself right and others wrong is a mental dysfunction that perpetuates separation and conflict between human beings, does that mean there is no such thing as right or wrong behavior, action, or belief? And wouldn't that be the moral relativism that some contemporary Christian teachings see as the great evil of our times? The history of Christianity is, of course, a prime example of how the belief that you are in sole possession of the truth, that is to say, right, can corrupt your actions and behavior to the point of insanity. For centuries, torturing and burning people alive if their opinion diverged even the slightest from church doctrine or narrow interpretations of scripture, the quote unquote truth was considered right because the victims were quote unquote wrong. They were so wrong that they needed to be killed. The truth was considered more important than human life. And what was the truth? A story you had to believe in, which means a bundle of thoughts. The 1 million people that mad dictator Pol Pot of Cambodia ordered killed included everybody who wore glasses. Why? To him, the Marxist interpretation of history was the absolute truth, and according to his version of it, those who wore glasses belonged to the educated class, the bourgeoisie, the exploiters of the peasants. They needed to be eliminated to make room for a new social order. His truth also was a bundle of thoughts. The Catholic and other churches are actually correct when they identify relativism, the belief that there is no absolute truth to guide human behavior as one of the evils of our times. But you won't find absolute truth if you look for it where it cannot be found. In doctrines, ideologies, sets of rules, or stories, what do all of these have in common? They are made up of thought. Thought can at best point to the truth, but it never is the truth. That's why Buddhists say the finger pointing to the moon is not the moon. All religions are equally false and equally true, depending on how you use them. You can use them in the service of the ego, or you can use them in the service of the truth. If you believe only religion is the truth, you are using it in the service of the ego. Used in such a way, religion becomes ideology and creates an illusory sense of superiority, as well as division and conflict between people. In the service of the truth, religious teachings represent signposts or maps left behind by awakened humans to assist you in spiritual awakening, that is to say, in becoming free of identification with form. There is only one absolute truth, and all other truths emanate from it. When you find that truth, your actions will be in alignment with it. Human action can reflect the truth or it can reflect illusion. Can the truth be put into words? Yes, but the words are, of course, not it. They only point to it. The truth is inseparable from who you are. Yes, you are the truth. If you look for it elsewhere, you will be deceived every time. The very being that you are is truth. Jesus tried to convey that when he said, I am the way and the truth and the life. These words uttered by Jesus are one of the most powerful and direct pointers to the truth, if understood correctly. If misinterpreted, however, they become a great obstacle. Jesus speaks of the innermost I am, the essence identity of every man and woman, every life form, in fact. He speaks of the life that you are. Some Christian mystics have called it the Christ within. Buddhists call it your Buddha nature. For Hindus, it is Atman, the indwelling God. When you're in touch with that dimension within yourself, and being in touch with it is your natural state, not some miraculous achievement, all your actions and relationships will reflect the oneness with all life that you sense deep within. This is love. Laws, commandments, rules, and regulations are necessary for those who are cut off from who they are, the truth within. They prevent the worst excess of the ego, and often they don't even do that. Love and do what you will, said St. Augustine. Words cannot get much closer to the truth than that. So we're already on page 70, and we're getting to page 84. We may get to it in this video, or it may be a follow-up because now it's 12:36. So we're gonna go ahead and check our chicken again. We're 41 minutes into this birthday special. If you want to call it a birthday special, even. I can't necessarily tell yet if they're ready. Kind of feel like they might be. Let's take a look. Well, they look pretty baked to me. So we're just gonna take a fork around. Yeah, these are done. Oh yeah. Oh guys, we did a great job. You guys are gonna love me and the way that I cook chicken. Oh my god. It only took about 20 minutes or so. Take a look at these. We got chicken wings. Oh yeah. We got some good chicken wings over here. Alright. So now what we're gonna do is take a look at our onions and whatnot. I mean, it looks like it got warm, but didn't get I guess too very far, so probably just needs a little bit more on that. But we're going to use our sweet honey BBQ sauce. Yes, yes. Oh yeah, these are gonna be good. This is a happy birthday. Ooh. All right. Probably just eat this on a big plate. This plate's pretty fucked up, but hey, it works. Alrighty. Got our chicken wings. Oh yeah, that's what. I want to show you guys like a better way to show you. They're all done. Just and then what we'll do is just flip some stuff over here. This kind of stuff. So it's so ready. So we got chicken with rice. Excuse me, not with rice, with potatoes and onions. Holy shit, I am drunk. Alright. Thanks for watching me celebrate my birthday alone. Cook dinner. Yeah. Have a good one. We'll see you on the flip. Piscean out.